Hello, welcome to another Boiler Room Collections. We've been brought back to Scotland ahead of the Valentine's Day True shows later in the week. I'm very fortunate to be in the home of Johnny and his friend Keith. Well, not they don't live together.
Home, yeah.
But we're back for another collection series with Optimo once again. At the end of the last one, we kind of decided we should probably do another one just because there was so much to cover. And this show's going to have a little bit of a running theme, isn't it?
So we're going to talk about the music that we would play when we did the weekly club, which was every Sunday for 12 years. For us, the first hour was quite an important part of the club. The idea was that it wouldn't be music for dancing to, although sometimes people would start dancing or would dance to some of the records. Some people would come specifically for the first hour of the night. A lot of people would deliberately avoid the first hour of the night. So it was just an excuse to play music. We would keep the volume a lot lower. And it was, one of the reasons I started DJing was so I could play records I loved at a loud volume. And the idea with Optimo was that this could be anything, any type of music whatsoever. It being a Sunday night, we wanted to create this atmosphere when you first came in for the first hour where people could maybe socialise, talk, rather than, for me, walking into a club and instantly hearing a house beat the minute the doors would open just didn't really appeal to me. So we would have this hour of anything. It could be any kind of music we liked, and it would change drastically from week to week. And then almost bang on midnight, we would start the actual warm-up. So I guess in effect, this was the warm-up to the warm-up, and then usually that warm-up would go pretty quickly, and by about 20 past 12, the club was, in full flow. Also, we would quite often have, we never book guest DJs, we'd book a lot of live acts, and then if we had them play, they would always play at midnight. So this would also be a prequel to whoever the guest was that week. They would always have half an hour maximum to play, and then at 12:30, then there would be no warm-up. The minute the band finished, it would just go straight into whatever the dance component of that
Would you try and gradually build up to that live show, or would it be
it
give them an open platform to
who the artist was. We would have people on that might be completely abstract, nothing to do with dance music at all, in which case, no. But sometimes, depending, like for example, with LCD Sound System played, they had to follow that same rule. They played at midnight. For someone like that, when the club, there was a palpable sense of atmosphere, we would probably build up more into something that would be fitting for them to then come on to.
One of the things what was really important to us when we were running the weekly residency was the kind of like the sort of sense of community that surrounded the club and going there every week, and it was really like a social club that first hour. And I suppose the kind of variety of music that we were playing, it really was anything goes, and it lent itself to that kind of
hence keeping the volume low.
So people could have conversations. People would meet people they hadn't met before in the club. If it had been really loud and straight into the dancing, there wouldn't have been perhaps that social element. Like with it being a Sunday, we just felt we wanted to do it in a very different way, and that it's a Saturday night you want to go straight out there and get straight. With it being a Sunday, we just wanted to kind of go against how a normal weekend club would run. And of course, when we go elsewhere, if we do the warm-up, these are records that we would never get a chance to play unless we're given the whole night, which sometimes happens. And then we would still have that idea where we would try and do a first hour of not dance music, particularly if it's a long set. I mean, sometimes it angers people, confuses people. Sometimes people get really passionate about it, and they're like, what are these records? And you introduce people to things they would never have encountered.
I suppose maybe you think, I think we tended to think as well, maybe people are listening, in quite an acute way in that point.
Which they probably weren't, really.
They weren't. Well, would be people arrive on their own before they meet their friends, and they're sitting alone, and sometimes you play, something with like a very strong lyrical content or something, and you're like, well, maybe that's, communicating that record and
there's also the idea that the music can be from any era. And one downside of this is there's a biog that floats about the internet, and quite often we'll see when we've got a gig, somehow this biog, which we never wrote, comes up, and it lists all these genres that we play, and it just makes it sound like a bunch of idiots that'll just play any record, but it always has this 50s swing. I don't even know what 50s swing is, but it sounds absolutely dreadful. We would play some records from the 1950s. There's great records from that era, but what is 50s?
It was torch songs 50s swing and
Post-punk.
something else, and we've never managed to shake it, so you can't get rid of these things.
Oh wow! You've never been booked for a 50s swing night though?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Maybe something we can talk about later. Is this, remember it came up again in that blog the other day, Keith, that someone described us as indie and eclectic, you know.
Yeah, which are two words that strike the fear of God.
If you define yourself as indie, you're
Yeah.
immediately not quite eclectic. All right, so it's kind of, should we stick something on? What
Yeah,
would be
so
the
if we're
first thing
talking
you
of
draw
50s
for?
swing, this is not 50s swing, but you know, quite often we would start the night with this exotic atmosphere, like I say, would change all the time. And this is a guy, Les Baxter, who made some amazing records in the 1950s. The thing about the recording of them is just phenomenal. We think we live in a very advanced technological time, but back then they were able to make records sound absolutely fantastic. So let's start with Mr. Baxter. Chart hit. So some guy called Gotcha, G-O-T-Y. I'm sure he had some massive hit and he sampled this bit of the record. Oh, really? But these records are eminently sampleable. So there's this series which were called Provocative Percussion, which is like late 50s, early 60s.
Is that a library record? Or no?
It was kind of when the hi-fi first came out and they made these series of records to make people, you could test how great your hi-fi sounded. So they were beautifully recorded, but they were just really percussion records. And I think there's about 20 in the series. And I picked that up for $5. And, but I'll just put this one on because if anyone's a big fan of Carl Craig, they might notice where...
I mean, I guess another sort of role of the warm-up is to sort of do the final checks of sound and I suppose records like this that are so nicely produced.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much of that came into your mind when you're selecting stuff for the warm-up, but...
So do you know the track Bug in the Basement by Carl Craig?
Oh, yeah.
So, it'll come in a minute. Now it does go to the 50s swing bit, which is not something we would play, but anyway, that's just an example.
So it's a 50 swing night with you and Carl Craig playing.
But quickly get out of the record before the actual swing bit came in.
Cool. So we've only got a certain amount of time. It's probably best if we just keep.
I wanted to balance.
Action.
I think another thing we used to do in art, I would quite often support and play music that friends had given me, you know. And there was a band who played right at the beginning when we first started doing the party called the Optimo.Bastards from Finland, and they had another little band called And the Left-Handed, which was Verlunki from Optimo.Bastards and Timo, and so I wanted to play one of their records, which I used to play a lot in the first hour. This is their band called The Left-Handed, and this is called China Dementio.
Would people bring stuff down specifically for you to play it on the night?
We've got a lot of records. People come down, and I mean, I don't think I've ever, you know, sometimes people bring a record down and say, "Will you play this, please?"
Yeah, it's a bit awkward.
You maybe need to listen to it first, but.
We were always very fortunate because the club was, I mean, the first year it wasn't popular at all. And that was fine. That's how we thought it would always be. And then it just, literally from one week to the next, became, it was sold out every week for 11 and a half years. So we were in a really lucky position that we could put on literally whoever we wanted, and we would have a capacity.
Yeah.
Right, so we could be, I mean, we weren't always self-indulgent, but we could bring crazy bands from Finland over because we could afford to do that.
Yeah.
And you would have a fairly open-minded audience that would be there anyway, so they would like be happy or unhappy sometimes. So.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, we really wanted to use it as the party as a platform for, you know, to let our friends play and stuff like that. And
yeah.
We'd have that, you know, that closer friendship and dialogue with some of these people. We would almost be able to say, hey, like, maybe if you don't, you know, and they would do something like shape towards,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I suppose if you're having guests over from other countries as well, it's quite nice to have that first hour, you know, still sort of be sociable with them and get to know them.
Yeah.
You know.
But it was also about the half-hour rule, because the idea was that people would know that was going to be on for half an hour. So even if they were hating it, they would know, okay, well, it's only half an hour. It's not going to ruin my entire night. So.
We used to laugh about that because, you know, you'd sometimes get a queue. There'd be a big queue always right round the block to get into the club, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes there'd be a queue to get out as well. So
yeah, there was one thing we had. I don't know if I should mention it, but there was one time we had. There was literally this queue to get in, and then another queue desperate to get out because they just couldn't stand it.
It's all right. They've paid the money.
Well, we did well out of it, you know, because you're actually getting more than capacity there, you know. Because you already had a few hundred paying in and leaving, and then you get a few more coming in. You know?
One in, one out. That's fair. That's rule.
So Timo and Verlunki, you know, these are people, you know, people we're still very close friends with, you know, and don't see so often now. But they were a big part of what happened in the early days, and they came in various. I mean, I think Timo actually performed at the club in 3 different bands, didn't he? KXP,
at least, yeah.
And the Left-Handed Optimo.Bastards, you know, so. Yeah, we've got
regulars.
A long relationship with the
cool
people.
Where should we take it next?
Well, we were also somebody who would play some quite extreme records. So this is this guy Sonny Sharrock. This is from the late '60s. I guess it could be called free jazz. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but I think for a lot of people it was maybe this kind of record where this was. I guess there wasn't. You wouldn't go outside to smoke then, because you could smoke in the club, but. People maybe find a little excuse to go out and get a breath of fresh air. But I think so. If you know the track from Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the Great Gig in the Sky, they ripped off the idea from this, but made it a little bit more palatable. But also in that time, Glasgow was kind of weird because you had, which became a chain around the country that then went bust, but there's still a few called Fop Records, and the guy that ran the shop was a huge jazz fan, and he started reissuing all these classic jazz records, and really weird jazz records, but they would be available for like £4 or £5.
Yeah.
So they were selling. I remember him telling me that he was. I never got
to the bottom of that. Whether they were bootlegs
so
or whether they were.
I don't know. He visualizes them, but somehow he could sell them really, really cheap. People would, because they were so cheap, people would buy them. And I remember him telling me he was selling more Miles Davis than Radiohead albums. But he would go around Glasgow and go to like just your newsagent, and they would obviously have taped these records. So you would just suddenly, for about a period of 2 years, be hearing all these crazy jazz records. Yeah. All around Glasgow. I remember one Sunday morning going to my newsagent to get a pint of milk, and he was playing. He was playing Alice Coltrane.
Aye.
So it was.
Would he just have them by the counter?
Well, he'd obviously. I think they were on CD too. So he did them on CD and vinyl, or he'd tape them, and they circulated right around Glasgow. There was a period where you had all these people in all sorts of bands suddenly were taking influence from these wild jazz records.
And none of them became sort of like semi-anthems around the city.
Alice Coltrane, that journey in Thatched Banana. Yeah. I still hear that sometimes in the weirdest places in Glasgow, simply because there's so many copies of it floated about in the city. Okay, that's maybe you get the idea of that one.
It is nice to sort of start the night with fairly weird records.
It is.
Later on in the night, when you pull something out that's maybe a little bit.
But again, it's having that freedom where you know you have an audience who are there and they're not going to go away. You know, it would be rare to have the balls. I mean, someone like Kieran Hebden might have the balls to play that in the middle of a techno set, but most people would.
Well, play records as well. Maybe this falls into that category, like records by. Bands that weren't really typical of the band. You know, this Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath, which is kind of psychedelic record.
Is that a single as well? Or is that an LP?
It was those guys in New York.
It originally came out on Paranoid.
Right.
You know, they're kind of first big record, Black Sabbath first big record.
You know, the Slow to Speak guys. So they did. I don't know how legit, probably not legit, but they did a series of 12 inches pressings of classic major label stuff, and I suppose reckon they were getting away with it with a promotional copy. They would do like Pink Floyd, 12 inches.
Can you just put this thing? Thanks, man.
Yeah, so you know, people when we record like this would say, "What was that amazing Balearic record you played?" You know, 10 minutes ago. Well, it was Black Sabbath. You
Liquid played at the club, who Optimo was named after one of their songs, and we recorded the set, and then with their permission pressed one of the songs on a single which we gave away at a later party. It was actually our New Year party, so on the way out everyone was handed a single, but this was at 5 in the morning. I guess
was it a few strewn around the street?
When we came out, there was 200. There's 1,000 people at the party, so there was 1,000 copies, and there was about 200 copies of this 7-inch. People were just
no pockets.
It was really depressing.
I know we'd fronted the cash and all that to get this, and we were so pleased with it, you know.
But then word had got out, and so people that hadn't been at the party started running out and scavenging these.
You know, so yeah, we did that. That was 2003, Keith. That's right. This is Bellhead. Would this record live at the Sub Club?
Has it got any crowd? I guess we'll hear it.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it will if it's got the crowd noise or whether it was straight from the.
Yeah, there's crowd noise on it. Actually, I'll put it halfway through.
Just comes in a plain 7-inch.
Plain white silver. Friend ours.
She's a very distinctive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Definitely suits the track as well. A bit of crowd noise and scream in the background. Would any of your guests ever ask to join in on the warm-up? Or was it always you guys?
You know, we were quite control. No one actually ever asked, but we were such total control freaks. Yeah. People probably have said, "You're all right, man.
We've got this."
But very occasionally we would invite friends, and particularly on before the club became really popular, we would do things just to annoy people. Like, what was a friend of mine who has endless versions of Light My Fire by The Doors, which is a song I can't stand anyway, but we thought we would have him do an entire hour of versions of Light My Fire, and people were going nuts in a bad way and getting so angry. So he finished, and then I happened to have this techno version of Light My Fire, but you don't really know it about 4 minutes in that it's going to be Light My Fire. So the whole club finally said, "Oh, thank goodness," and starts going crazy. And then the Light My Fire, and this guy actually punched me in the face. That was quite fun.
I guess that is a good way to do it. Make them so angry with the woman.
It was torture.
It was torture.
It sounds like an hour. Honestly, it was diabolical. Wasn't it? Terrible idea. When I did it again.
They do that to the diffuse hostage situations. Play the same track over and over again. Cool. Well, I guess let's try and fit a bunch more music in. If
I would put that. I think one. I think both Keith and I have got we're both into kind of quite sleazy music, and we used to play a lot of like stuff like Las Vegas grind music and
strip music,
and we used to call them Optimo titty shakers, and we'd play. You know, it was a big element, I suppose, of the club. That kind of
the titty shakers.
That kind of. And with the lights, we'd always only have red light in the club, and we quite a sleazy atmosphere. Yeah. This is a record literally called Sleaze. It was a fan club record only. Which was Mark Ammon's band, Mark and the Mambas, before he did Soft Cell, and it kind of fitted the bill, I suppose, for that end of things. Well, actually, a friend of ours asked if she could come and strip at the club one night. You need a license to have a stripper,
really?
you know.
That was another really bad idea.
So that was a terrible idea as well.
How do strippergrams do it? If
Well,
you
we
need a
thought
license, they just have a roaming
you know, we
license.
thought she would do, you know, a bit of racy dancing or something, or you know, something a bit salacious on the wee stage you put up. I mean, like, literally 2 minutes into the thing, she was topless, and, you know, and cavorting around the place, and we're like, oh, we're going to get. Quite often we'd make edits and show videos, not like video effects, more like cut-ups of documentaries or artists' films, or just like footage of kind of social realism, and slow it down maybe, you know, or put a colour washes over it, and that would all be shown on a video. We didn't really use projections, we used like quite discrete monitors everywhere, so we'd always have video showing. And a lot of this, you know, a lot of the early stuff we played, you know, there would be some quite strange movies and that shown as well. But one night, I don't know how, but the guy that operates the video would put a video in that shouldn't have been screened at all. It was disgraceful. And
well, it wasn't. It was a high concept feminist.
It was very challenging work. Let's just say.
Could have been misunderstood. Or,
it was misunderstood by this German woman who went to the police because she felt that we needed protected from ourselves.
Yeah.
For being the type of people that would show this in a club. So you spent like a good hour in Maryhill Police Station.
Yeah.
After the hour spent with the police sergeant and the WPC, the sergeant asked if he could take it home for further research, didn't he?
Aye. I mean, in hindsight, it probably wasn't the right Richard Kern film to show in the club. I mean, there would have been better choices, and that's exactly what happened. The guy just took it from the collection of CDs, and you know, and the sub club were very worried, you know, because they were concerned about their license and stuff like that, and we were like, it was a bit of a sticky wicket for us, you know, at that point. And did you not have to go and to the police again one time when White House were playing?
On the CIT, we had this act White House play, and they had some psychotic fan that used to phone up the police.
He was trying to wreck the tour or something.
Tell the police that they were a neo-Nazi band, which they weren't. So the head of CID in Glasgow spent an hour on the phone trying to find out about my political beliefs, because he was convinced I was trying to hold a neo-Nazi rally, and I said, well, you know, I'm obviously diametrically opposed to being a neo-Nazi, but you know, it brought up issues of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, even if I had been wanting to do that, which I obviously.
Do you know what the motive was behind this craze?
The guy was just was a schizophrenic fan who I don't know why, but he would just try and disrupt any gig, maybe because he couldn't go. We never got to the bottom of it. He then disappeared, obviously, was section or something, but I think there was like 6 or 7 gigs around the country that this fan tried to stop from happening by calling the police. Other things we would do is we would just, in the early days, we did something where we were really, really into the music of Arthur Russell before people really knew who Arthur Russell was. So one night we just put up posters around Glasgow, and it was like Optimo featuring the spirit of Arthur Russell. Like, no one really knew who he was. We just did the whole night of playing Arthur Russell records. But for like weeks after, people would come up and go, that guy Arthur, you know, he was obviously long dead at the time. That guy Arthur Russell you had played, he was amazing. Can you get him back again? So this is Arthur Russell used to like record in the studio called Battery Sound in New York, and he would get endless free studio time, and in exchange, the guy that ran the studio put out these records as Power Man, and he would get Arthur to play on the records. So this is one where with some quite prominent cello from Arthur Russell.
So you mentioned that record was part of an Arthur Russell themed night of his music. Was there any other specifically themed nights that spring to mind?
I mean, we did 1 or 2. Every year we would do a Halloween party, which actually happened by accident. It just happened that one Sunday it was Halloween, and we hadn't really thought it was going to be a Halloween party, and literally everyone turned up.
I'd forgotten that. That's right.
Dressed. So then that became an annual event, and sometimes we did it for so long. We would do things specifically amuse ourselves. So
I think that's the thing, you know, talking about these things again, Keith, it really reminds me that when we were doing this, we had no interest in what anyone else was doing. You know, we just really, really were having a good laugh and playing whatever music we wanted, and putting whatever content into the night, whatever we wanted to do. I don't think we give it. We never thought about what else was really happening in Glasgow, or what else was, you know, it was just like, and we're talking about getting in the bother with the police, and you know, and all this kind of like the sort of assault course of events over the years that, you know, then it was such great fun. Like,
we put so much energy in it. Every week we would spend the whole week sometimes thinking about the next week, about, you know, on a low budget, the production, whatever, the music. I would spend the whole week literally pulling out records, like, this will work.
Yeah.
And then one week we decided we were going to turn the club into the set of Apocalypse Now. So for that we actually spent...
That was your idea.
We spent like a vast... And I spent like weeks working on the sound design. Through a friend in Hollywood, got all the state-of-the-art, you know, recordings.
So we looked up all the artillery that was used, like to the, you know, the specific types of machine guns and specific types of helicopters and specific types of bombs and things that were going off, and we sourced all the sound effects. So it was totally authentic.
We would bring the music down and suddenly have the sound of like helicopters. Finally, we got a theatrical explosives expert in.
Yeah, with a real bomb tank, like a metal bomb tank, where he was letting off.
I mean, the whole club would like shake. Literally, the whole crowd would go, because the whole club would vibrate.
Did they react well to it?
Yeah. When you came in, we just had smoke coming out the front door of the sub club.
Now, we never advertised it. We never said, you know, this week's going to be an Apocalypse Now themed night.
Did they
so people just showed
said
up.
on the posters, I love the smell of napalm
on a Monday morning. That was it, because the club was on a Sunday night. So it was,
and we got a friend to go out, and he got a truck full of vegetation from up there. So it's like trees,
the club was just full. It was full of big flatbed truck, you know, and we got all the trees and cuttings off the Parks Department, and they were and the subclub were having a canary, like, because it was just vegetation, trees everywhere in the club. You were climbing through, you know, undergrowth in the club.
We had an actor playing a dead GI, so people thought he was this dummy, didn't they? And he was just lying there on this table in the middle of the club all night.
Bamboo cages everywhere, orange smoke everywhere, and it was ridiculous. And people go, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Well, because it's fun. There was some guy there from Manchester going, is it like this every week? I'm coming back.
This is an Apocalypse Now fan club that I've walked in on. Wow. Well, was that your production budget for the year gone?
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting insane, but it didn't matter. It was just something we really wanted to do.
I know. And we were playing on a Friday and Saturday, but as Keith said, you know, it was definitely secondary to what our own party on a Sunday. That was really the centre of everything we were doing was this this party on a Sunday. You know, so that was where most of our energies went.
Yeah. So I guess off the back of spending so much time and energy planning what you're going to bring to Espacio on a Sunday, how did that affect the gigs? Would you take a similar bag, or would you just have a sort of generic bag?
No, we'd take very different records when we went elsewhere. I mean, there was, you know, the dance part of the night, and those records we would probably play where we went elsewhere. But there were certain records, you know, having a residency where you're there every week, you can make certain records become very popular, and you can play them knowing that the first time you play them, people aren't going to get them, maybe the second, the third, but eventually you can turn that track into something that everyone knows and falls over. You can take extreme risks with music. When you go to another club, it's hard to have the balls to do. I mean, sometimes we will do that, and sometimes you can go somewhere and you can sense that this crowd is really open to whatever you're going to do. You can take it, but in my opinion, I think clubs have become a lot more conservative. I think people to try and do really strange records in most clubs, especially when you only get a 90-minute or a 2-hour set, or a festival or something. It's almost impossible to do something like that. So back then we would definitely have the records that we would play at the club and the records we would take.
But it's maybe where we got that reputation for being a bit difficult, or where, you know, some people would, you know, would say, you know, eclectic, just because we would play something that was a wee bit, you know, incongruous with the rest of the, you know, and it's yeah, maybe that's where that's come from, you know. But as I say, it was all because we were just having a great time.
Our one regret is we managed over the years to book we had a list of people that we wanted to book, and I think we got every single one of them, except for who was an iconic Optimo artist, which was Nina Simone. And we finally, just before she died, we managed to book her. But her manager, I think she was, at that period of her life, she was very, very difficult to deal with, very temperamental. And he taught us, we would have done it in the club, we would have done it in a bigger venue, where occasionally we'd do big Grace Jones, we'd Lee Scratch Perry. And he taught us how to do it. And so this day, I wish, no matter how crazy or difficult she might have been, I just really wish we'd had Nina Simone play. Anyway, here's a Nina Simone. So.
I heard you wasn't feeling good.
Oops.
Mr. Backlash, just who do you think I am? You raise my taxes, freeze my wages, and send my son to Vietnam. You give me second-class houses and second-class schools. Do you think that all colored folks are just second-class fools, Mr. Backlash? I'm gonna leave you with a backlash blue. When I try to find a job, backlash. I'm gonna leave you with a backlash blues. Mr. Backlash, Mr. Backlash, just what do you think I got to lose? I'm gonna leave you with the backlash blues. You're the one who'll have the blues, not me. Just wait and see.
So were there any sort of instances where you might have been asked to go and play abroad and would have had the chance to do the warm-up at those gigs as well? Or was that?
Yeah, very occasionally, but mostly not. Occasionally someone would invite us to do the entire night.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this Saturday, we're playing in London this Saturday. We're going to play for 8 hours, and just the two of us.
Yeah.
And
that's a prime example where we have 8 hours, so we will do.
You know,
it'll be like an extended version of what, because when we did the Sundays we had 4 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's nice when that comes along, that opportunity, or you know, there's been occasion. I remember in Paris one night, for Kill a DJ, we only played striptease music.
But obviously, if you go to Panorama Bar, you're probably not going to play striptease record. Well, you never know.
Maybe.
I think as well, and you know, we're talking about the idea of the broadcast being, you know, when we were doing the party in the first hour and stuff like that. We'd play some quite difficult, quite noisy, quite offensive music sometimes as well. So, and I think Throb and Gristle have always been synonymous with Optimo, and I wanted to play something came over me, Throb and Gristle, because we never really shied away from playing like real pretty noisy and stuff as well. Yeah, first time.
Looking, which tap the one you want.
Something came over me. Something came over me, and I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what it was. Or was it white and sticky? Or was it white and sticky? Well, I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what it was. Something came over me. Something came over me, and I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what it was, but I rather like it. Yes, I rather like it, so I'm doing it again. Yes, I'm doing it again. Something came over me. Something came over me, and I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what it was. Or was it white and sticky? Or was it white and sticky? Well, I don't know what it was. No, I don't know what it was, but I rather like it. Yes, I rather like it, so I'm doing it again. Yes, I'm doing it again. Something came over me. Something came over me. Was it white and sticky? Or was it white and sticky? Something came
most of these records have still got quite a bit of groove to them, or you could dance to them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And people would dance to it.
Yeah.
I mean, people that would literally stand on the dance floor, no matter what we played, would dance, and then you'd notice other people would kind of, depending what the record, would come and go, which is also nice because usually DJing, it's about keeping a dance floor there all the time. At this point in the night, it was, people would get up and then they would go away again, and then but it didn't really matter. So I mean, this is another one, not kind of in a similar vein. This guy Conrad Schnitzler.
We're in that first hour as well. No matter what you do or play, people are going to be finding their bearings, getting drinks coming in and out.
Absolutely.
It's good to give them a good
Fun.
excuse.
So this is another one that you play, and it's a pretty crazy record. But yeah, you could definitely. It has a. Fades in gently. But also you wouldn't have to worry about tempo again later when even over the course of an Optimo night, the tempo would change quite a lot, and we would have dramatic drops in tempo. But when you're mixing, you do get locked in to tempo. So again, in the first hour, the tempo could be very, very fast, very slow between records.
Also, if you've only got one bag of records and you've got something at a slightly odd tempo, there's no other part of the night you're going to be able to fit it in, or you could get to the last hour and no chance of getting it in. It's good.
I mean, that was like, because it was just down the road, we could also take huge amounts of records. I mean,
would you ever run back to get records?
I mean, one time it actually happened, and I can't remember what it was, and some girl was over from America, she asked for a record that I absolutely love. It was some old industrial band, and I couldn't believe that she had asked for it, and I actually got a taxi home from the subclub to get the record and went back. But we would usually take 2-3 boxes of records each.
And it would be, I was just thinking last night when I was pulling records for it, it would often be we could play obituary records as well, well, at any time of the night, but sometimes if someone, who had been particularly influential or just, to us, had died that week, when we would had the opportunity to play a lot of their music, in the first hour, and often to finish the night as well.
Or things, it was the week John Peel died, and got lots of little bits of audio of him speaking, and would have those coming in throughout the night, so it almost sounded like he was introducing the odd records here or there.
Maybe 2 more?
Sure, yeah. Put another one on, John.
How are we doing for time?
We'll do 2 more, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to play this. This is a Spanish record, very early, 1962 synthesizer record. Usual, it was quite typical back then to divide the record into different moods, like syncopation, vibration, or weather. Although quite a lot of the early synthesizer records were categorized by weather conditions, like wind or rain or sun. This is
so what moves this?
This is vibration.
very
No, no.
Just getting into it and then maybe not.
Yeah, but you would get, you would
Good
sometimes.
time to go to the toilet record.
Yeah. Used to be the stuff with sort of jazz influences like this. It would, you know, people would find particularly irritating.
Yeah.
You know, you get people that have never been there before that had heard something about the club, but didn't fully understand it. And they would just come up and they would just be like, it could be something, what is this? What is this?
What are you doing?
What is this?
Well, I guess anyone from out of town or abroad that might have heard of it came
Or
out.
especially when it first started, I think because the sub-club was so synonymous with house and techno, and you get people that were maybe regulars and other, and they'd be really active. Why are you can't play this music in the sub-club? Why are you playing this music in the sub-club? Or also maybe because we were known before that as being like techno DJs, people being
Yes, that's
you're
right.
a traitor to techno.
Yeah, like sub-club was kind of hallowed ground, and it was, you know, really you shouldn't be playing records. But as I said earlier, like sometimes it's like, I mean, you're listening to that, it's slightly ridiculous, but it probably wasn't too far away from where my head was at the time, you know, because I'd been away for and hadn't slept for 48 hours, you know, and I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
And also maybe that all the people that had come had probably been up or out all weekend, and maybe were in a fragile...
And we were probably with them a wee bit as well there, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, also it's going to, you know, shake a bit more out of them. But it's just a drive-in house kick drum for 4 hours. They're going to subdue it even more.
And then almost bang on the stroke of midnight, to the point that people always be like, okay, it's coming, it's coming. We would then go into something that was definitely more
Jacking.
I mean, this record isn't jacking, but then by any stretch of imagination, but then would probably mix something in that was, even though it was quite slow, extremely jacking, and then the night would just take off. So this is like some 70s kind of French. Disco, weird. So some of this, but you would just bring a massive kick drum in.
Yeah.
And then that was...
Yeah, so we were quite, quite often around midnight it'd be something like that, you know, that would get you across there.
The lead in. Would you only ever have one record that really made that leap then?
No, I mean, it's just, it could be, it could be like anything, but yeah. So sometimes it would go straight in at a fast tempo, sometimes we would do a slow build up, but usually always by about 12:30 the club was just full on.
Our KZA did exactly that, didn't he?
Yeah, so he didn't end at this with a kick drum.
Je la rencontre toujours la nuit, toujours au même endroit. Je ne la vois jamais arriver et soudain, elle est là, à côté de moi. Belle, pâle, mystérieuse, grave. Elle marche à mes côtés pendant quelques instants, puis elle disparaît brutalement, comme si elle était happée par la galaxie.
C'est une fille vraiment étrange. Elle a les yeux orange. Elle a les cheveux d'un ange. C'est une fille très étrange.
Une fois, une seule, elle m'a dit venir d'ailleurs, d'au-delà de l'univers, du pays des grandes solitudes. Elle m'a dit qu'elle s'y mourait d'un froid éternel. Quand j'ai voulu la prendre dans mes bras, elle a disparu brutalement, comme si elle était happée par la galaxie.
C'est une fille vraiment étrange. Elle a les yeux orange. Elle a les cheveux d'un ange.
Okay.
Well, I think that about brings us to the end. Thanks very much for that.
All right, thanks. Thanks for
Thanks
doing it
for,
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did it again.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone that's been watching online.
Yeah.
We'll be back with another collection soon, hopefully. Maybe we can even do another one day.
Maybe. Third time lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Cool.
Charles. Cheers.
Thank you.
Right,
Thanks,
cheers.
guys.